see. All right. Well, listen, good evening, everybody. This is, I think we hope to be our last Wiehle Avenue pedestrian study group. Um, I appreciate everybody's time and there's been a lot of good work that's been done since our last meeting. We have circulated some drafts, and I apologize for some of the confusion. I think there was even a couple drafts going at the same time, but um, I think what we tried to do today was kind of send out, I think what's considered more of the latest draft with a lot of the attachments. I think that this is some of the first times we've seen, all the attachments pulled together. That was sent out, I think, on the 12th of August, and then again later today. So, there's been an outstanding issue about how we want to comment on the Crawford at-grade crossing at the Wiehle Avenue and Dulles Toll Road ramps. And so Maurice had a suggestion last night to try to maybe kind of pool the members, maybe with some questions, and that would help maybe bring that issue to closure. And I'm not sure everybody saw those polling questions. And so Jose,
Rob, I think that was one of the things that I wanted to chime in on. I think it's a little late in the game to change what this was sort of supposed to be a closing meeting where we've had several versions of this draft. And I think you and I we got our drafts twisted here at the end because I thought I was the one who was supposed to be making all the changes and helping you guys out because you guys have been carrying the bulk of things previously. And so what we had agreed to do, and doesn't seem to be even a lot of people here tonight. So I think it's unfair to, at the last minute, decide to do a poll and then change the rules on people who really feel like tonight is the last night and or may not even be here because this is supposed to be a wrap-up session where we just look at the final draft. So I think what we should be doing is just asking people, were there any major changes to the document? Did it get circulated? I mean, this can be a 15-minute meeting right here. And then circulate the final version to everyone.
So Lori, let's be clear, I guess, which is the final document, because I think there were two documents being circulated. So, at the end of the last meeting, I had agreed to take everybody's comments, pull them together, and issue a new draft by the 12th of August, which I did. And the reason I did that was you were having your eye problems and eye issues, and there was some concern you had about, being able to see things. And so that's why that was taken on. And so there was the draft that was issued on the 12th, and it was mainly issued to just the participants who commented on, because that's the only emails that I actually had access to. So that was reissued again today. And maybe what we should do is just bring that up on the screen to make sure we all understand which document we're talking about.
Can you bring up Lori's final though, because that contained the language that should be number 1. I don't know.
It also contained, I mean, I also went back to each person who sent in comments and asked them, did I reflect your comments appropriately? Did you do that in your version, Rob? Did you go back to each person and say, I mean, because I specifically wanted to be completely transparent with each individual who shared their comments, were
Right,
they properly reflected?
That was the draft that went out on the 12th with the message that, please review this, because what we did is we compiled all the emails that were received by Jose and any of us compiled all the comments from those emails and then reissued that draft on the 12th and asked people one more time to kind of give a look at it. And several people had commented, yep, you've
Yeah,
captured what
I just went
You
directly
didn't
to each
do
one
that,
of them
though. You didn't
individually and
include my
asked them.
comment.
So what the reason we brought up the polling question, because there was this outstanding issue of the bullet number 1. Not everybody was in agreement that the way it was worded in the draft. We looked at, Lori, your comments on at our last meeting, and then the draft that was issued. Not everybody was in agreement with that. So that's why I thought we needed to try to resolve that tonight by coming up with some way to appease everybody's interests here. I mean, we're not, we're trying to be transparent, but we also are trying to recognize that not everybody was on board with that added bullet the way it was worded.
Do you
What
want
you
to go
said
over what the difference
over was
is?
only one person. So if you want to change the numbers, fine, but the bullet should remain as number 1. And the majority of the people who provided comments, none of them said that they supported the as proffered crosswalk.
Well, I think once we get done, we should count and actually have the number of people who provided comments. That's what we agreed to do, right? The people who provided comments, we would count towards the different percentages.
If I may break in and request a clarification or state a clarification, the proffered crosswalk was the one with the pork chop, but I, for example, proposed a not pork chop crossing there. Not my favorite, but under the understanding that people being people and no way to block that activity off because we have turn lanes, they're going to do it. So make it safe as possible, but not preference. I didn't preference it. But when we were discussing crosswalk as proffered, I don't think some people realized we were talking about the deadly pork chop. And I think that is where we need some clarification. If people realized it was that pork chop that we're talking about, then we would get a clearer, yes, I wanted it, no, I didn't want it, or, whatever. That's my comment. Thank you.
Well, I think
Rob?
the pork chop was the first thing that we all noticed, and that's why, I mean, SOS was created because we saw that pork chop and circulated that to the community. That was a huge issue. So
I agree, but it wasn't, we didn't identify it as the proffered pork chop crossing,
Well,
and
let's can we actually be
alert.
Tammy, can we actually be a little more technical in our language? The crosswalk, let me finish this, please. The crosswalk itself is allowed to be is part of this discussion as part of the proffers. The crosswalk shown is part of the CDP, and Brian, Ken, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not technically a proffered condition. It's part of the approved conceptual development plan, the CDP FDP, but it's not in and of itself its own proffer. We are permitted to discuss it. We can discuss it as part of this group within the language of the proffers as I reread today. And in truth, you have a signalized area. Within the law of the Commonwealth of Virginia, that's a crosswalk. Whether we want to acknowledge it as such or not, that is a crosswalk. Now, the best we can do is to push for the best designed crosswalk we can get. And that I agree with you, that includes no pork chops. I agree that it should not be a multi-stage crossing. We should allow the time for a single pedestrian to get from side A to side B in a single movement. However, Whether or not it goes in is not, again, Brian and Ken, please correct me, or Mark, is not in and of itself a proffered discussion point within this group. It's part of the CDP.
So I'll jump in to try to answer that question. The crosswalk is proffered. It is proffered subject to VDOT approval, and it is also subject to being included in this study group's review and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. That was a change that was made toward the end of the rezoning application process at the request of a number of folks who wanted to further evaluate this crosswalk. So the result of the study group's recommendations and a decision by the Board of Supervisors could be to require the Campus Commons development to provide that crosswalk as shown on the CDP FDP, subject to VDOT approval. It can be some alternative, but it is not, it's not something that is just shown on the plan and there's no commitment to it, but it was intended to be part of this group's review and evaluation.
Right.
I'll just add to that, Brian. Great way of putting it. And I think this was provided. I know this has been provided to you all with all those materials. I know there's been a lot of materials, but in coordination with TF Cornerstone, there was an extensive study of this crosswalk. Honestly, a far more extensive study than we normally do. They looked at a bunch of different options. And I just remind the group that one of the reasons why this design was selected is because, as we know, Wiehle Avenue is very wide. And the only way to have a crossing that, like Scott suggested, which is everybody's preference, right, to have a traditional crossing. But the only way to do that would be to stop traffic in all directions for an extended period of time, so that somebody could cross the street, about 50 seconds. So that means all traffic stops, pedestrian crosses. We all know how much traffic is on Wiehle Avenue. You all know very well how much traffic is on Wiehle Avenue. The goal was to find a way to move the vehicles and the pedestrians. I just want to remind the group that one of the things that the county and VDOT frankly demanded, for lack of a better word, with this was that all of the traffic coming off of the toll road would be signalized and no turn on red. So yes, you would be crossing to that channelized island, the pork chop, and then you'd have to cross again, but it wouldn't be like Sunrise Valley and Wiehle today, where you have to look and hope the car stops. Cars off the toll road are going to come to a red light with no turn on red, and the pedestrian will have an unrestricted access at that time. The other options we evaluated were a traditional crosswalk. There were some other variations of all of these. And this, because of the amount of traffic on Wiehle Avenue, this is the only design that we could get to that both protected pedestrians and kept the traffic flowing and didn't result in vehicles backing up to Sunset Hills or onto the toll road. And we realize that's a real challenge here. And that's something we want to look at with this phase 2 of the study. I also agree with you, Tammy. People are going to cross here. That's our experience. Unless we do what was done on Route 50 in Arlington and build miles and a mile of fencing on each side where nobody can get across any other way, people are going to cross. And so
Guys,
I think
we are not supposed to be discussing at this late juncture. This sounds like we're going all the way back to the beginning where we're discussing the merits of it. And I appreciate the depth of knowledge and the amount of work that you went through, Mark, and I know it. But I want to interrupt you because this is not what this meeting is supposed to be for.
I'll withdraw my comment. Thank you.
Okay, no, I appreciate it very much. I know you did a lot of work on it, and there are just a lot of you know, people have heard all this and we've been through more than 15 of these sessions, and really included in your comment. You know, we decided we disagree, and that's okay. You know, that, you know, we've heard all the arguments, we've seen, you know, contracts, contractors' information, we've got all that information. And if you don't agree with something that, you know, that is being said or something that's in the summary, I think we're just going to have to clarify in our personal comments. The only thing that I am concerned about, really, is coming up with a final draft and seeing that, because Rob, I may change my comments depending upon which draft is used. And then once that's done, I know, Mark, you have to make some changes to the document to prepare it, I guess, and I'm assuming they're only formatting changes for the board. You keep saying that you have to do something to it.
I will not be making any changes to this document that you all are working on.
Okay,
I'm working with Jose and Supervisor Alcorn to write a board map, and that's what Supervisor Alcorn will actually read into the record at the board meeting. And that is, honestly, that is us supporting the Hunter Mill office and putting that together. And that's where he's going to accept the recommendations, that's the wrong way of putting it. He's going to acknowledge, I guess is a better word, the recommendations of this group in accordance with the proffer. And you know, and he can add anything he wants in there. You know, it's him speaking. Attached to that board matter will be two things at this point. One will be the proffers, because even though the board approved them, they're so relevant to this. The other will be the document that you all are working on. Our goal on the staff side, and Jose, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the district side is to PDF the document that you all send us and attach it, and it will be incorporated into the record as your document.
Yep.
Okay.
And the supervisor
when-
we post the board matters on the Hunter Mill page as well. So
say it again, Jose, I didn't hear you.
oh, sorry about that, Lori. Yeah, we after the board meetings, we usually put the board matters on the Hunter Mill page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
To me, all we have to do tonight is pick up what our deadlines are to have everything to you, Mark. Is that correct?
Yeah, the main thing is for this group to finalize the document that you all have been working so hard on, so that that information can go to Supervisor Alcorn, and that the board matter that he will present either on September 14th or October 5th. We always like to have a little buffer. Will allow him to consider the information that you all have provided
Okay.
with that information. But again, we're not touching your information. That will be incorporated into the record along with the proffer statement.
Hey,
I
Lori,
would just ask Rob if I could have the weekend to look over your draft and make any small comments or changes, because it takes me a little bit longer now.
right. I think would it just help to take a few minutes to walk through the draft, so that
I think
'Cause-
we determined at the last meeting where we tried to do that, that was not a good tactic.
no, I just wanted to, I can clarify and it can show everybody in the group. I mean, basically, Lori, I took your information, almost used it verbatim, with the one exception was that first bullet item, which yeah, I still think we need to resolve here tonight. Everything else is, you had the questions as in the summary in the beginning. You pose things as questions, and I just made them as labels or titles. But you pretty much use your verbiage verbatim, and then went through again all the emails and try to capture everybody's content, and then took all the attachments, labeled the attachments, and so I think it's a 77-page document now, and so it's very comprehensive of everybody's things. So And again, the only reason that one bullet was not included was because I received some comments that people took exception to that wording. And I felt that we could easily work that out tonight, where I think we're all on the same page that something can be said about the at-grade crossing. It was just the original wording people took exception to, and we just needed to come up with another way to, I guess, describe it. And I think that's all, I think it would be healthy to try to accomplish tonight, so that then we walk away and pretty much, and again, we might not all be in agreement, but the way it was worded, 100% of the study group believes this, and several people said, no, that's not, they didn't agree with that type of statement.
So several people didn't. You provided 2 comments, only one of which said that they didn't agree with it completely. Now, I just don't appreciate that, because as the comments were in the document, none of them had supported the as proffered crosswalk. So if someone now wants to say that they support it, we have already discussed the as proffered crosswalk, and when we discussed it, no one supported it.
Well, people are allowed to change their.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle,
Yeah.
a lot of people have changed their
Yeah,
minds throughout this
I
entire
mean-
process.
Fine, but that doesn't require removing something, though, just because you didn't want it there.
Well, did you
See,
remove-
Michelle, hold on, Mallory. Let's see, Michelle, you keep thinking that this is something that I'm doing. I'm just reporting what people have commented on, and I supplied 2 of the comments that were made so you could see that it wasn't just coming from me. But again, the point is, it was a verbiage that was suggested to be added at the last meeting. We actually heard verbally people not agreeing to that at the last meeting. And then we saw written comment of people not agreeing to that verbiage. It's just, we have to accept that it's, again, as part of the summary, whether it should be there or not, it can all be in people's personal comments. And I don't mind it being up in the summary, but it has to be reworded in some way to be more reflective of the group's thoughts and not a few individuals' opinions.
Well, I think you need to have it, something about the crosswork in there. I mean, that is one of the things that was part of the proffer. So I think you think that needs to go in there. And then, as proffered sounds appropriate. I mean, people who have been in this, whether or not they're confused or not, people who've been in this study group should know what was as proffered, and if they have a question on it, they can look it up or ask. So I don't think it should be taken out. I think it should be included.
Please put the document up so we can look at it, change the wording, and everybody will be happy, please. Can somebody put a copy up,
Yeah,
please?
Yeah,
Jose,
give me one
you have
second.
that
Let me,
handy?
yeah, let me pull them up.
Okay.
Did you
Use
want them?
Lori's draft.
What was that, Michelle? Sorry.
Since Rob removed it, you have to use Lori's draft.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. Was it this one right here, number 1, item number 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not the most recent version, is it, Rob?
No, it wasn't, because I think the last one said 100% of the study group do not support the as proffered crosswalk.
Well, I think you
Oh.
can leave it like this and then do exactly what you did before and count in the comments below.
Yeah, so the problem was not everybody commented on that specific issue and really weren't asked to. And that's
was
the problem we were
the
faced with, where
Group. It
Yeah.
was
Okay,
most.
so we can go
part
back
of
to the few people that had comments and ask them how they feel about it. And
Hey,
then,
Rob, you just woke me up on that one. Jose sent out a draft, a clean draft, completely formatted. Jose, what was it, about 4 o'clock this afternoon?
yes.
Yeah.
I would sure like to see that one brought up in lieu of a completely different format that we.
Yeah, no, Dave, you're right. the format that you saw this afternoon was the final version that I created, and we're going back to this version only because I did not include this bullet number 1 or summary item number 1 when there wasn't when I received some feedback that people were against it. So
All right.
Let me see if I can find the right one. I'm sorry about that. Let me try digging my email.
No, you have
it's
the
okay?
right one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
This is fine.
have-
We're just
Okay.
trying to clarify number 1.
okay. Got it.
This then can be added to, the current, whatever.
Oh, it needs to be added back. And so,
That is what I just said.
yeah. So once you add it back, how do we count? I mean, because it does state as proffered crosswalk, and we took time to make sure we removed things from it that were leading, because we had the word dangerous and other things in there, and we removed all that to make it a very non-judgmental item, and we discussed it in length. So, Rob, if there's any, I think this can go back as is, and if there's anyone who has a comment who did not comment on this particular item, number 1, the only thing to do is to go back to that individual and say, you didn't comment on number 1. How do you feel about that? Do you want to comment on that now? And then we'll have the exact numbers, and we don't need to take it any further.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with adding that back in, but in trying to get, whether it closed down to a percentage. Let's see, I think there's another one on there. Well, I'm sorry, we're not looking at my draft. There was another one of the questions that on the final version, there was the comment that was made about not having a lot of the people in the group would have preferred to have more information regarding the future of Wiehle Avenue prior to sending our final recommendations to the board. Again, that was not a specific question posed to the group, and not everybody commented on that. So the wording that I chose was, I just said, additionally, many in the study group commented throughout the process that they would have preferred to have more information. So the point it being, some of these were hard to get a percentage when we didn't really have everybody commenting on the same exact thing throughout the document.
I completely agree with you, and I understand where you're going with that, but that whether or not we had information or not was not one of the things we were voting on and discussing. That's an aside. Whether or not there was a proffer, whether or not people agreed to the proffered crosswalk was an item that we did want people to comment on if they so wished. And it is something that the board is most likely concerned about. The fact that we didn't have information is really, I don't see that as a pivotal item.
Can I make a suggestion? It sounds like the issue is whether we'll call them abstentions or the people who did not comment. Would it be possible to have a percentage of, let's say, I'm just making up numbers here, let's say 20% of the study group did not support the as proffered crosswalk, 20% of the study group did support, and then 60% of the study group did not state an
Comment. Yep, that's perfect. Didn't comment.
What I'm hearing is there's a concern that because if you say 20% supported, it's implied 80% did it, or vice versa. So, I mean,
The problem
Rob,
is
Lori, what do you think?
we didn't poll anyone on anything. Some of these comments are based just purely on the day where we did that straw poll, and then somebody transcribed those and put those in.
Yeah.
Because that's where my comment came from that day. So this is not,
Michelle, I understand where you're going with this, but really, this has been circulated, recirculated. We've reached out to, I literally have reached out to everybody on this list and said, these are your comments. Are you still okay with them? So, you are welcome, and I would love for you to flesh out your comments because you're a fabulous, incredible writer, and to add some flavor and depth in here. I'd love to have you flesh out some of that, but like we went back to Michael McDermott, we went back to Steve Cherney, we went back to Tammy. She wrote pages and added a whole section. Jay, wrote a whole section. Dave Bryant. We said developers weren't going to comment in here, but Comstock is commenting in here. I mean, nobody's pushed back on that, and he's put information in there. So, I mean, I feel like even Sarah came back and said, you didn't put your information in the way, my information in the way I wanted. So I feel like we really have reached out to people on that issue. But I think one clean way of breaking with this is to do what Mark suggested, and say, 5 people didn't comment or something like that. Or if people want to comment, this is their last opportunity. I really don't think you can add much now in the nth hour, right? This has got to go. It's got to be off our hands by the 31st of August and into Mark's. So, I mean, I want to look at it this weekend one more time. Does anybody else, I mean, should we send it out one more time and say this is going to go to, it's going to go to press?
Actually, Lori, at our last meeting, we agreed to give Mark this letter tomorrow. The 20th of August was actually our deadline.
Yeah, I just need the weekend though. I need to read through it with both eyes because now I found out that it's not my version you're working with. So I need an extra 2 days. Would that be all right with you, Mark?
I think the question isn't for me, it's for the group. I think one of the challenges is, I think it's made very clear here that everybody has a lot of interest in this document and making sure that everybody's had a chance to read it and is comfortable with it, or maybe not comfortable, but that no one has any critical issues. So I guess the question would be for all of you, how does that work? Because that was, I agree with what Rob said. I thought the goal was to bless this. Apparently there was some confusion, but I thought the goal was to bless a final document. So that would be my only question: is how in that case does this group, does what goes to Supervisor Alcorn remains something that the group has sort of acknowledged. But Jose, I'll ask you what you think is a date that you need it by, because really it's not coming to me, it's going to the supervisor's office.
2 days is the weekend, so I see no reason not to just wait the 2 days to get Lori to review any additional changes, and then we can circle it out first thing Monday morning, the final version of everything, and just so everyone has it. Would that work?
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, Tammy.
Do we only know of 2 people who did not, who had issues with supporting, who choose to support the as proffered? Are there 2?
There were 2 that specifically provided written comment, Tammy. I was the 3rd one who just had problems with the way it was worded, and then there was just so many that just didn't comment on it specifically to try to throw a percentage to it.
Yeah, I think the percentage is like dicey because the how many people are in the study, that was never, we never said 40 people are voting here, 100% of 40 didn't. So what I was going to suggest is a vast majority or a majority of the study group do not, or all but 2 or all but 3 of the study group do not support. You know, if you don't comment, I can.
Yeah, and
We
Tammy, I would
don't-
agree
yeah.
with that. You know, even if we took a poll tonight just to go around the dial here, and if we could see that the consensus was that the majority of the people do agree with this statement, we
Then
could
just-
maybe say it that way.
Yeah, just go with the majority do not support. Because we have talked about that before, how many people are in the study, you know, and so on and so forth. So shall we do just a quickie, hands up?
The problem with that, Tammy, is everyone's not here, and this is the third rendition of this document. And so the problem is, you know, we're dwindling in our group right now. And so if we try and do this, we're doing it with a subset of a subset of a subset of the group, which may not be representative of the population at all. So that's why, I mean, really the only thing you can do is take it from their comments.
So according to the comments, no one has offered their proactive support of this crosswalk. I don't know how else to define that, but Rob, then you got one comment that said that they would support it, I think, but that was only one that said that they may support this.
I think you have to put the comment in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of nuance to what you're saying there, because you know, would you prefer a different crosswalk? I would agree with Tammy. I would definitely prefer that it is a straight across crosswalk and it not be there. That said, so if that was my comment, that would be my comment, and you're taking that as I would prefer no crosswalk if that can't exist, which would not be my preference. And I think that would probably be a lot of people's preferences.
That's not what I said, Ken. I said the as proffered crosswalk.
I know, but that's what the wording implies as you've written it.
No, it doesn't. It's just talking about the as proffered crosswalk.
Can I maybe clarify something as well? The proffer, going back to what Brian said earlier, the proffer says that the study group will consider a crosswalk of Wiehle Avenue in its deliberations, and that if the board directs, if the board just, it's not even approves, it's if the board endorses, I guess, that there will be a crosswalk. That's the only thing the proffer says. The only thing the proffer says is a crosswalk of Wiehle Avenue. The CDP shows a crosswalk design, which, by the way, could theoretically be modified, though based on the study, I don't know that it will be. But just since we're parsing all of this, the proffer only says a crosswalk of Wiehle Avenue. It doesn't define what that crosswalk is. It just says a crosswalk. So I just want to let the group know that one way or another. And I'm just curious, Michelle, since I'll be one of the people that I'm sure will be having a conversation with Supervisor Alcorn about this. How many people, or how many people specifically are opposed to a crosswalk here? Because I know when we looked at
Mark, I can tell you that. I mean, that crosswalk was 1,000 people, you know, overnight created Save Our Sunrise because of that crosswalk. So, I mean, that crosswalk as proffered was a huge issue. So that's one of the reasons why this needs to stay in this document.
Yeah, so Lori, I don't think anybody's arguing anymore about it staying in the document. The question becomes how to voice it. Do we just simply word it that based on the comments below, there was not support for the as proffered crosswalk across Wiehle Avenue, and not try to put a percentage to it?
Yes.
Rob, can I interject here for a minute, please? I actually tried to use the little hand button. I've had it up for a little bit of time here.
Oh, sorry, I'm not paying attention to that right now.
That's okay.
I don't have that. I gotta widen my screen.
I went back All right, I went back and pulled up the full document that had the proffers attached, and I'm looking right now, rereading the instructions we had for proffer 25D, which is the Wiehle Avenue grade separated crossing. The study group was tasked to make a recommendation on option A, option B, or option C of the bridges, or possibly a pedestrian bridge or underground underpass / tunnel. That's what the study group was tasked with, and we seem to be right now wrapped around the axle of how we should design or how we should propose a crosswalk across Wiehle Avenue at this location, which I think is coming. But we're spending a lot of effort right now talking about a crosswalk, and yet when I read the proffer, we were tasked specifically with reviewing the 3 bridge options and possibly the underpass.
That's not accurate. Brian already confirmed that we're supposed to also review the crosswalk.
You've got to look at page 25, I think it is, item E, where it
25?
talks about the pedestrian crossing. Yeah, Brian already confirmed it for us, but thanks, David.
Yeah, that's right, guys. You're right.
So I can work with that, Rob. That sounds like a good solution.
I think to address Tammy's concern, though, if we do need to use the word pork chop or something else to clarify that the community's issue initially and the discussion has been based on the crosswalk proposed that would include a pedestrian refuge in the middle of the Dulles Toll Road. That is the concern.
For language purposes, Rob and Lori and crew, instead of saying the proffered crosswalk, would it be fair and more accurate to say that we do not support the crosswalk design shown in the CDP FDP, and then we just include whatever sheet number? Because that's where the details of what we're against are.
Yeah.
I could support that statement.
Yeah, as one of the 2 people that was against the statement as written, I would support that also.
Okay. I think we have a winner here. 100% of the people now, unless Rob, you change your mind.
No. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I mean, I think that captures, I think, the essence of that. So let me suggest this. I can add that bullet, and that'll be it'll be item number 1 under the overview. So now there'll be 5 of them plus the additional statement, and then we can just reissue this tomorrow for that they'll have that in it, and in hopes of getting this kind of wrapped up. And
so Rob, if nobody has any comment on any other part of the document, could we just leave the focus of the review just to the overview then, and just send out the overview?
I don't think that's appropriate though, David. I think we need to send out that one final time to everybody. If there's a comma you want that's out of place, David, we want to fix it for you. Okay.
Now,
So-
most people call me Dave. My mom used to call me David when she was mad at me, and it was David Allen if she was really mad at me.
All right, David Allen. Sorry, Dave. Thank you. But I think we send out the whole thing. I just want to be, and then Jose, thank you for the additional 2 days. I will promise to noodle anything out, any questions I have with Rob.
Are we going to look at Rob's document tonight at all? That's the final draft as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
I don't think so. I think if you have any issues with it, that they should be extremely minor and you should send them to it. I think the one issue that we had was what we just ironed out tonight. I mean, I think we can call it quits right now.
Well, I'm
I was
good
gonna-
with calling quits on this. I'm a
So
little
moved.
concerned that there is like possibility of people editing this beyond just grammatical, and I don't want that to occur.
I think
I
you
think
can
we-
edit their comments, but not the rest of the document. You know, you don't have a right to touch the rest of the document. That is up to the chair and the two co-chairs.
Correct.
We got everybody together one last time. I'm suggesting we put the document up there. Rob would read it aloud as we read it on the screen. If anybody has any objection, then they should raise it now, not in an edited version coming down the road. That's going to confuse things and then it has to be reissued. Let's go over Rob's document tonight. We're all here. If it takes another 10 minutes, I'm willing to sacrifice another 10 minutes of my life to get this done right and get it done tonight, except for the bullet number 1.
I'm good with that. I think
I'm good with that.
it won't take very long. It might help clarify any last minute comments anybody might have had. And then for those who maybe didn't get a chance to see the final version, since there was some confusion, then that could maybe help clarify that as well. Okay, so in this final edited version, I think, you know,
Can you make it super big for me now, Jose? Super big.
So do my best.
Okay.
So again, instead of the questions, I made them just headings about the purpose of the study group and the participants in the study group, information made available, the information that was not available. Just again, a lot of this was verbatim from Lori's text. And then on the next page.
Well, let's go through the end of this page. We're
Yes, I
going.
think we need to read it. Maurice said we're reading it, so read. I'm fine with the top. I'm just reading the purpose of the study group. Okay, so I have a question on the participants of the study group. Blah, blah, blah. Do we need to say anything in, well, I guess we don't need to say anything about a part, about Comstop not recusing themselves. They definitely gave their opinion in here, but we say many of those developers recuse themselves, so that's fine.
Who recused themselves?
Brian and
Cornerstones.
Well, Cornerstone.
Then just say
has
the
it.
applicant recused themselves. But
I did.
I also did.
pause here for a second.
Who's speaking, please? When you
This
say
is Lori. I'm sorry, pause right here for a second. The information made available to the study group. The hired a consultant. Okay.
This is your language, Lori, but almost verbatim. The only thing
Yeah,
I changed was the titles.
we don't have the consultant's name.
It's on the documents that are attached in the appendix.
Yeah, I would put it here.
Unnecessary.
And I would also put, never mind.
it
Maggie.
says it's provided in Appendix 2. So this
Okay.
is a synopsis.
Okay.
This is an
Fourth paragraph.
overview, a summary.
Okay. Information that was not available.
can we make my change to the many of those developers? I don't remember if that was accepted.
Well, can you clarify that again, Michelle?
Oh,
According
only.
to the applicant, instead of accordingly many of those developers, just change it to accordingly the applicant comma.
That sounds good.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Instead of many of those developers,
Yep.
change that to the applicant, which is perfectly fine. It's definitely more clarifying. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah. And then the final paragraph there, information that was not available. Is Maggie here tonight? Because that pulled in her comments that were very helpful.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you for that.
You are welcome.
I'm sorry to do this, but technically, right, the pending funding availability, that second comprehensive evaluation was an add-on or an amendment by Commissioner Carter. I don't think that we only just now learned of it over the course of this study group. Just for technically correct purposes, I don't think that is right.
What sentence are you looking at, Michelle?
Under information that was not available to the study group, I think you can just start with pending funding availability. Fairfax County plans to hire. So cut the over the course of the 2 years of this, and cut over the course of the 2 years of meetings, comma, the study group learned that, comma. Cut that, start the sentence with pending.
Well, just remember, a lot of us in the study group weren't originally involved in some of the conversations you all might have had. So some of us were just privy as being part of the study group.
This was part of what the board approved. It wasn't based on a conversation.
So why don't you want to say the study during our meetings, the study group learned? Because that's where I found out that all these things were going to happen.
Right.
What? Or it might happen pending funding.
I would recommend we leave that in there.
And that study that's pending is depending on phase 2 of Metro actually working, being active, and 6 months after is the time frame that is hope that traffic patterns will iron out and become what they probably will be.
Yeah, but who knows what they're going to be, right?
Well, that's the point. It's that, you know, we're 2 years and waiting for phase 2, and we are not going to be seeing that until October of 22. So it's not so much waiting for pending, it's our funding, it's waiting for the stars to align and Metro to actually get going.
Well, and funding. So
Well,
I think
I know we can parse this to death, but the issue was trying to having a consultant conduct the comprehensive evaluation is irrelevant until phase 2 is operational of Metro out to the airport, and we see what the traffic pattern. People aren't going to be coming to rest and to park. Hopefully we will not be in a pandemic.
Yeah. I see where Michelle is going with this. So it just keeps a cleaner language, which is fine. It would just be a capital P for pending, and everything else would be fine. Can we go to the next paragraph, or do you want to change anything?
I would hope you read that, because that first sentence doesn't make sense now.
pending funding availability, Fairfax County plans to hire a
Okay.
transportation
No, I'm
consultant.
with you with the comment there. Okay, sorry.
Hey, Lori and Rob, can I make one quick request?
Sure.
If we're being this specific with the document, do you mind scrolling back up for a second?
Which paragraph?
To the paragraph at the bottom now, where we have the applicant, where we took out the, I think it was several developers or many developers. I have a humble request to add the applicant and its representatives.
Of course.
You know, like VICA wasn't part of this study and they were the engineering team. I've
Thank
been
you.
answering information, but not presenting my opinion, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, but now the attorney has now added advice on the letter.
He gets more on his bill. Let him go.
There's always a catch with lawyers.
David Allen, behave yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can we scroll down? But is it but to provide the board a the goal of the study group was not to vote on a singular option, but to provide the board a general sense of preferences. So we're missing 1, 2.
That's a
Therefore,
good edit.
for an overview of the study group's meeting is provided below, verbatim.
I would actually put the 2 after provide if we're getting that picky. But provide to the board.
Okay, Scott, you got it. This is, oh. Okay. So let's add a new number 1.
I thought for certain that was coming out in 2 days.
So Michelle, do you remember the agreed upon wording?
I can, what I wrote down was based on the comments below, the study group.
Hold on, based on the comments below.
The study group does not support the at-grade crosswalk as shown on the CDP
/ FDP.
/ FDP. And I guess somewhere we could say the at-grade crosswalk across Wiehle Avenue at the Dulles Toll Road as shown on the CDP. I think that's probably the better way to show it.
And then the page number.
Wait, what was that again? Sorry, going too fast for me.
So sorry, so say, complete that the
You're-
at-grade crosswalk across Wiehle Avenue at the Dulles Toll Road.
Should that be a dash before the
No.
the?
No, I think what Rob's trying to say is that the at-grade crosswalk across Wheelie Avenue at the Dulles Toll Road should immediately follow the words "do not support the."
Okay.
Oh, right over
Yeah,
here.
right, like, yeah, right there.
Across, yeah, perfect. And then is there a page number on the CDP FDP?
Yeah,
I think Scott suggested that.
Well, are
Yeah.
we going to show that also in, I mean, that should be an appendix so they can see it.
Yes. But you can put, the page number and then appendix, whatever number you want.
Okay, let's do both. I like both. That clarifies it. And then there's a period, and then we'll have to do appendix whatever. I don't know which number we're on. Thank you, Rob.
Yes, ma'am. So now I did add the percentages here based on the comments that were made up till now. In it, there's the comments below, and I just tried to, you know, take each comment, put over in a little chart that I feel that they addressed one of these 1 through 4 items, and kept a little tally, and that's when then I showed them numerically: 16 out of 16, 11 out of 16, 10 out of 16, 7 out of 16, and that's how it shook out.
Oh, thanks, Rob. I mean, Scott.
Was that correct? Sheet C-07? My chat went away real quick.
From the proffers, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, what else do we have underneath this?
So then after that, it's everybody's personal comments, which I don't think we should go over those tonight. And
No,
No.
if people have issues with their comments, they should be reaching out.
and
I
then
think we're done.
yeah, if you don't mind, I just show the appendix, just how those showed up. Just maybe even go to one where I just added some labels to the appendices. It's usually just on the first page of each appendix, I added a label.
Oh, I think I was going the wrong way. Sorry, Rob. I think this is it, right? The
That's,
one.
well, that's, no, let's see, there you go.
Oh.
So I tried to put a number and then relate it back to where it came from. So
Can't you just put that as a header for all the pages that match up to Tammy's suggestions? And then the next appendix would have a header, the appendix 4, appendix 5.
it's just, it gets all over the place because they're all different PDFs and different versions and sizes, and
It just gets
it got a
painful.
little messy.
Okay. I'm good with this, Rob.
So anyway, so that's, again, I think it ended up being a 77-page document when you include all the content, the appendixes. But I think it's a good document. I think it represents well. It provides everybody's verbatim comments, which I think is the key to this document, and I think it'll be received very well.
Rob and Lori, one final suggestion. As we add a reference to the CDP FDP to the appendices.
Yeah, we'll have to change the numbers.
Well, it would be, if you're going to keep them numbered in order, I guess it would be whatever the order is. But if you're just going to slap it in, it would be appendix number 5. And I would suggest that we excerpt it and just include sheet C7 as opposed to the entire CDP FDP.
Oh, yeah. We just want that one sheet because it's otherwise.
As long as the sheet has the picture, right?
It would have the plan view. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well.
All right, real quickly, I'm gonna throw out an optional thing for Rob to think about for Appendix 4. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm still okay with it. In my comments, I had suggested that Rob, see where the northbound side of Wiehle Avenue is at north of the ramps, and you have 5 lanes shown?
Yep.
Okay, as a daily user of that left turn coming off the toll road, so many times people swing into the turn lanes and then want to get back over into the through lanes. I would love to see that median widened out right at that location so that you're forced into the through lanes and not into the into the left turn lanes. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm still okay with it. It's one of my comments.
Okay.
Dave, I
right.
think you should take him out for a beer.
Matchbox. Matchbox. Anybody that wants to join me at Matchbox at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon out on the patio, I'll be happy to buy them a drink.
Oh,
Dave, I'll be there and we can discuss signing and pavement marking.
All right. That includes
Okay.
all those other quiet people from the county that I guess I can't buy them drinks technically.
Yeah, I was about to say, Dave, I think you got a limitation there.
Yeah, as long as it's under $25, you're good.
you can
All right.
mysteriously leave and on
All
the
right.
trail.
It's the date. Matchbox 4 o'clock on the patio.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, listen, everybody, I appreciate everybody's participation in this group, and you know, it's a lot of hard effort, and we've got to thank Jose. My goodness, Jose has been
Yay!
a tremendous supporting help here. We couldn't have done this without him. I certainly wouldn't have been able to orchestrate these Zoom meetings or whatever they are at this point. But and Lori, Scott, thank you for your all your help during this whole process, and really thanks to everybody, and really Mark Dreyfus and VDOT is often on the call, and all the support we got from the county and everybody has really been helpful in this whole process. I think we've all learned a lot throughout this process. At least I hope you felt
survived this with us. That we really appreciate. Thank you.
So bottom line, I'll make these edits that we talked about, and I'll issue it to Jose tomorrow, and then Jose, if you don't mind distributing,
Yes.
that'd be great.
And then Lori's going to review the document over the weekend, and we'll send everyone the final, so everyone has it, right? Right, Lori?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
And Rob and Laurie, thank you both for taking this on. I know it was a huge time commitment for both of you, and I think that the group was much better for it. So thank you both for all your time on this.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey, guys.
Thanks very much, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.